Welcome back to TBD. I'm Eddie Geller.
And I'm Stephanie Vanos, Orange County School Board member, but I am here unofficially.
Unofficially. I am also here unofficially. I don't know if I have an official position to be here officially, but I am here.
TBD.
TBD. TBD, which is still not our final name. Our final name is TBD. We're working on it. We're workshopping names on some text chains. We got some lukewarm feedback on a couple of proposed names. So we're a little bit back to the drawing board, would you say?
I would say we're back to the drawing board.
That's all right. You know, a good name is waiting for us, waiting to be grabbed and harnessed by us, and we will grab it. Is that weird?
It's a little weird, but I like it. If anyone has good ideas of names, send them our way.
Send them our way. If I sound a little froggy, I'm a tad under the weather. I've been kind of under the weather for the last few days. Do you feel like I'm just doing this for attention?
Unclear.
No, but I'm feeling okay. My voice is not quite where I want it to be, but I'm so happy to be here with you. So happy to be talking about all things school board, Florida politics, national politics. I don't know if I'm always so happy to be talking about these things, but I'm happy to be here with you talking about them because there's no one I'd rather talk about this stuff than with you.
I'm very happy to be here with you. You're ready to, let's get into it.
Okay, so today we are talking about some school board updates. As always, we're going to talk Florida politics. We're going to each count down our top three or bottom three, however you want to phrase it, bills that we're watching in the state legislature. Their session almost just ended, but they didn't figure out a budget, so they're going to be going back. We'll talk more about that and the bills we're keeping an eye on. And then we're going to talk some national politics, as we like to do, about Dems fighting back, about who's doing that well and who's doing it not so well. But I did want to shout this out because it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we appreciate teachers on this podcast. Can I throw it to you, Steph? Anything you'd like to say in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week?
No, I mean, I think there are just not the words, not the time to express how much appreciation we have for our educators in all of our schools. They do so much amazing work for students and families and schools. And it's hard to be a teacher right now. It's not easy. And so I just thank you truly to all of the teachers out there. Thank you for the hours and time and patience that you put in during school hours and after school hours, because I know there is lots of that too. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I would say, if we could do one thing to show teachers appreciation, one thing that would be very helpful would be to, pay our teachers better.
I could not agree more. And here on all the teacher kudos. You said it so well, as you always do. We're so appreciative of teachers around here. But I do want to I want to dive into our first subject, which is actually related in a unfortunate way. But I want to talk about it because you've been in the news commenting on it. So figure we should talk about it here. But a lot of folks are talking about layoffs and teachers losing their jobs, their contracts ending here in Orange County. Can you explain a bit about why that is happening, what's going on, any clarifications you can give on that?
Yeah, so actually a couple of weeks ago, teachers that were not going to be reappointed for the position that they were in received a letter indicating that. Since that time, there has been a teacher fair where they were able to go as they sort of interview for different positions. And of course, our focus is that, our teachers that have been with our district will get jobs maybe in different areas or different schools. But the reality is that there probably are not going to be enough positions for all of the teachers that, do not have a position for next year.
That is definitely tough to hear. And that is not something you want to see. That's certainly not something the teachers want to see or parents want to see. That is tough all around. Can you explain why is this happening? What's going on?
Well, the main reason is that next year our enrollment numbers will be declining for Orange County Public Schools. We are expecting about 3,100 fewer students next year than are enrolled this year, and that is about a $27 million cut to our public schools. And there are a couple of reasons for this, but by far the biggest reason is that we are losing funding to, taxpayer funded vouchers. And, our families are a lot of them not even coming to public school and instead are, kind of taking the, $8,500, $9,000 coupon and going right to private schools. And that really is impacting us in our public schools for sure. And so that is going to mean that we don't have, as many positions available for teachers next year.
But just for clarification, because I think I heard this at a school board meeting from the commenters, are we sure that books with salacious comments are not the reason declining enrollment is happening? Because I did hear that at public comment from someone who was very pro banning books.
I would be interested to meet these people and find out and talk to the families that have decided to leave public school because their child was exposed to a dangerous book in school. And if that's the reason that they're leaving our public schools, I would like to meet those parents and learn more.
Okay, look forward to that interview next week. We will bring one of those parents on the pod. Let's move on to Florida politics. Quite a session. Democrats here in Florida are in the super minority. So it's always quite a wild ride, or it's been a wild ride the last few years, what's happening. We want to go through our top 3 bills or bottom 3 bills, again, however you're parsing it. But before we get into specific bills that are have either passed or didn't pass that we were watching, I want to throw to you again, if that's okay, to talk about where we're at with the funding fight, because this is something we were talking about last week. You've been posting on social about it. So can you give folks an update about funding for these classes that we've been talking about?
Yeah. So here's the update. So lawmakers ended session this past Friday, May 2nd, I believe it was. And for the most part, most of the bills they're done with that. They're really focused on coming back to Tallahassee for the budget. So they're taking this week, quote unquote off, and then they'll be back in Tallahassee on May 12th for that week. And my guess is that the budget will be kind of decided in that week. So what is still at issue for us is this potential funding cut for the advanced studies classes, the AP, the IB, the AICE, the dual enrollment, and the CTE courses. That funding, that add-on funding, which the House had proposed to cut by 50%, and the Senate had essentially proposed the same thing, doing it a little bit differently, that's still on the chopping block. So we are encouraging parents and students and people who feel strongly about having these advanced opportunities for our students in schools to reach out, email legislators, and let them know that you support these classes and you support funding them at the same levels that they have, traditionally been funded.
Is there anything you want to point out about how important these classes are and why this is such a big deal? Because some folks might be like, well, do I really care about AP classes or dual enrollment, or why should folks think these things are important?
Yeah, I think they're important for a number of reasons. First of all, they're very popular schools. It's a reason that we do have a lot of students coming back into our public school system to access these courses. I think it gives students an opportunity to, take a deeper dive into courses and get some advanced studying, prepares them for college. It also saves families money, right? Because they can get college credits while they're in school, whether they're doing, AP classes, whether they're doing dual enrollment. So they're very important for that reason as well. I also read a really interesting report from the Helios Foundation this week, and they did some research, I believe it was last year, and it showed that students who take at least one AP or dual enrollment course were more likely to enroll in college than students who did not participate in either of those. And that when students take one of these advanced classes, AP or dual enrollment specifically, they're more likely to earn a degree. And especially, they noted that Black students were substantially more likely to attain a bachelor's degree, more so than an associate degree, if they participated in an AP class or dual enrollment. And this is really important because the Helios Foundation has also done some work this year showing just how important it is for students to get some type of degree, after high school, whether it's associate's degree or bachelor's degree, and how much that impacts them, not only individually, but how it impacts us socially and economically, benefits us as well as a community. So again, these classes are important for individuals, but also for our society in general.
Now we are moving on. We're going to talk about our top 3. Now, just so folks know how this worked, we went through bills that were proposed and didn't pass, and sadly, some bills we're very frustrated with that did pass. And so we talked about our lists, and anything I mentioned, just so folks know, was also important to you, and vice versa. But we didn't want to just talk about the same thing. So just because I'm mentioning a bill about citizens initiatives doesn't mean you don't care about it.
Okay. I'm throwing it to you. Tell me, what are your top bills that you've been watching?
All right, well, let's go back and forth. So I'll start with number 3. And this was a bright spot because this was a bill that didn't pass. And there were a lot of bills that didn't pass that I'm grateful. Number 3 was the pride flag ban that didn't pass. And so this is a bill that would have effectively banned schools, city halls, and other government buildings from displaying pride flags. And it's such a hateful bill. And this is nothing new, of course, for the Florida legislature and the hate that comes from some of these folks. But I am so gratified to see, even though, you can make an argument that this is symbolic, but it's more than symbolic. I mean, this is such a powerful statement for folks who are LGBTQ. And I think to attack them like this by proposing this pride flag ban is such a hateful statement. And I'm gratified. And maybe this is just us being grateful that we're getting some crumbs. But the fact that didn't pass is heartening to me, and some glimmer of hope that we're not our worst selves, or maybe they just didn't do enough backdoor dealing to get the votes they need to pass it. But in either case, that's my number 3 bill that I was watching that I'm very glad did not pass.
I am in agreement with you. And actually, it reminds me, when I was campaigning, I guess 2 summers ago now, I remember having this conversation with one of the chambers in one of the cities in my district, and they started passing out pride stickers for businesses to put up in their window. And, some businesses were like a little hesitant, not sure, how that would impact their business. But what they actually found is that their business actually increased when they displayed that they were an open, accepting, and that everyone was welcome in their place of business, that it was actually good for business.
I mean, that's such a good point. And I think it shows, I think when you are, whether it's a government building or a school or what have you, it shows, it communicates that this is a state, a country, a city, what have you, that is accepting and wants all people. And I think sadly we're in this moment where that is feeling more and more constricted. So I think to see that stopped or not go forward is, a little bit of breath of fresh air. So I was glad to see that. All right. What is your number 3? Because in my mind, we're counting these down 3-1.
Okay. Well, I wasn't prepared to put mine in order, but I'm just going to say that another one that I was really glad, this is one that I was glad passed, is the anaphylaxis bill passed by, it was introduced by Representative Harris in the House and Senator Guillermo Smith in the Senate. I know it passed the Senate unanimously, and it requires both traditional and charter public schools to be ready to implement emergency action plans for students with allergies at all times while they're on school grounds. So that means that when a student is staying for an after-school sport or at school early, that there is someone that knows how to use an EpiPen on the school campus during that time, so that these students are protected and know that they're safe at school. And again, I think this is just such a no-brainer. We have so many students with allergies, and this is making sure that someone has a pen and knows how to use it at all times is so important. I don't know. What do you think about that one, Eddie?
Well, the reason I am smiling because there may have been a past incident where I did not correctly use an EpiPen, which is a story for another day. But this is I will say I'm lucky. I have a number of allergies. I have never been in a place where I absolutely needed an EpiPen, though, as the story I'm alluded to, I have tried to use an EpiPen. But long story short, I've got a lot of allergies. And as many folks know, allergies only get worse as you get older. So I'm waiting for, that sneaky almond to make it into my food and do me in. But it hasn't happened yet.
And if it does, it would probably be my fault, let's be honest. But I know how to use an EpiPen, so I'm okay. Unfortunately, this bill does not train individuals who actually have the allergy how to use the EpiPen. I think they're assuming that they probably know how to use it, but
do you take offense? So one of the things I do is when we're cooking or we're at the store, I'm like, oh, let's put some almond extract in this just to test you. Are you offended by those tests? You've passed, I think, 80%.
Well, I strive for an A, but I'll take that. The reality is, man, almond extract is good.
No, it tastes like pain.
No, it just gives things a nice sweet taste. I love it, but we're not using any almond extract here.
Frankly, that is so offensive for you to speak about how wonderful almond extract is on a podcast with me. Little hurt over here. So kudos to Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith, a very important bill. I'm very glad to see it passed. And it is a reminder that even in a state like Florida, good things do happen and lawmakers do work towards getting good legislation passed, and it does happen. And he should be credited for the hard work he put into it.
And sometimes bipartisanship does happen.
It does happen sometimes. It's very strange, and there's actually a phrase in politics that I think some folks might not like this, but no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. I actually may have a few permanent enemies, but I think in terms of politics, I think it's a wise phrase to keep in mind. Even if you don't go by like that being the letter of the law, I think the spirit of that makes sense when you're trying to help people and do good things. You're going to disagree with people, sometimes ardently, but sometimes you can do good work. And if you find a way to work together to get good legislation passed or to do what you need to do, you're working on behalf of your constituents, you're doing good work, and we can't be so... Again, there are exceptions. I say this as we are slowly becoming more and more of a fascist country, and I think Trump should be opposed at every moment. But when you're talking about local politics, state politics, yes, bipartisanship can be very important when you can do good work. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I was just say, again, kudos to Rep. Harris, kudos to Carlos Guillermo Smith. Let's go to your number 2.
Okay, my number 2. All right, this is a real hobby horse of mine. Is Florida has voted to be the second state in the nation to pass a ban in fluoride in water. I am so gosh darn livid about this. I don't know. How family friendly are we at this point?
I think you need to, let's explore your lividness.
Well, okay. So what the bill states is the fluoride ban is part of a larger farm bill that's going to prevent local governments from using any additives in drinking water. But this is really a target against fluoride and is born of conspiracy theories and junk science. I think what makes me so angry about it, aside from being a person who takes dental care really seriously, and I do.
You do.
You know that. I think I am just so angry about, this idea that at the very least, like even when I disagree with things that happen in governance, I at least think, okay, well, there's some sort of good faith argument. There's something happening. I mean, that doesn't happen all the time or even a lot. But I think passing a ban on fluoride is just so maddening. Seeing Representative Alvarez say this is not about fluoride, this is about liberty. I mean, I want to throw up, which would be bad for my teeth because when the bile comes back up, it eats away at your enamel. So very bad.
Great point.
Water fluoridation has been researched for more than 80 years, and overwhelming, credible scientific evidence consistently indicates that fluoridation of community water supplies is safe and effective at preventing tooth decay and repairing tooth decay. And that's from the Florida Dental Association. And look, I'm skeptical of most trade associations, but I trust the dentists. And there's few things in science where it's like, oh, this was a wonderful thing we discovered, that we could put fluoride in water and we could help people, help children have better teeth just by adding this little bit of fluoride in water. And so I think to reverse that is just so maddening. And the people who it's going to affect are, lower income folks, younger kids who don't brush as much. I mean, that's what this is for, is like, if you're me and you're a psycho and you're brushing and flossing all the time and just so excited to go to the dentist because they're going to say nice things about my teeth, I'm not worried about my own teeth. In fact, I still have 2 baby teeth and I'm a 41-year-old man. So I'm very proud of that fact. So this is not protecting me, but this is protecting a lot of younger folks and folks who do not have access to as much dental care. So just like many things in governance and many things that Republicans weaponize, the folks who are the most vulnerable are the most attacked, even when it comes to dental care.
Okay, number one, we are anti-cavity and pro-tooth health. Teeth health? Dental health?
Dental health.
Dental.
And I want to be clear, I love sugar. Like, eat your candy, drink your soda, like, enjoy it. But, brush and floss. I mean, you only get one set of teeth.
Great point. That's a great point. And I have to say, I don't have young kids anymore, but I do have a daughter that will probably suffer because there is no longer fluoride in the water. We depend on her drinking the water for her health, for her dental health. But anyway, speaking of kind of no-brainers and clear research for things that help children, I wanted to talk about the start time bill. A couple of years ago, the Florida legislature passed a bill that would require all high schools to start no earlier than 8:30 and all middle schools to start no earlier than 8 o'clock. And this was just based on, there's no doubt, this is just very conclusive research that this is better for children in pretty much every regard, better for academics, better for mental health, better for school safety, you name it. And this year it was, they passed a bill that basically took away the requirement. It said that schools have to kind of look into it, but if they determine that they can't comply with the bill, then that's okay. If they say it doesn't work for them, they don't have to comply with this law, and school start times can remain as they are. This is a frustrating one for me. I believe, again, the research is very clear about the way the circadian rhythms work and how our children sleep and the benefits of good sleep. And so this was a tough bill for me. I know it was not popular among many districts. I wish that after this bill had passed and there was such strong support for it in the legislature, that districts had really worked with these lawmakers who pushed this bill through to find a way to fund it, to make it possible. And I sense that didn't really happen, and people kind of didn't want to make a change, and they just kind of threw up their hands and said, it's going to be too expensive, it's going to be too hard, we don't want to deal with the change, and so now it's repealed. So districts will not have to comply with this, but I do hope we continue to have a conversation about how our high school students really are not getting enough sleep, and how we can improve how we can improve chronic absenteeism. First of all, how we can improve their ability to thrive in school, how we can improve their mental health. All of these things I think that starting later would have helped with, but hopefully we can continue to have that conversation. But I did find this one a little frustrating personally.
Well, I want to give you credit. There's going to be some folks listening to this podcast who actually disagree with you and who are not going to be thrilled to know that you support this idea. I, of course, could not be more of a staunch supporter. I remember my high school days just zonked out most of the time, and I was not doing drugs. I did not do drugs as a youth. I don't do them as an adult, but my body did not want to get up at whatever it was, 6:30 that I had to get up. And I think most students can relate. And I think you're right. The science on this is so clear. And I think having a real conversation with parents and talking about the science and trying to figure out how to make it work is really important. I hope, like you said, that conversation gets to be had at some point in the not too distant future. And I know I've said this to you, but if we found out there was some pathogen in the milk that was causing test scores to decline, that was causing mental health to be lower, causing absenteeism, we'd get rid of that milk immediately. We'd chuck it out. We'd be like, why? There would be riots in the street about how to figure that out. And that is early start times. All the things you said, they are part of absenteeism, lower scores, yada, yada. It is a pathogen in our public schools that we force kids to upend their natural cycle to make them get up so early. And I think being smart and being thoughtful and listening to folks about their frustrations with it, but talking clearly about the science to help kids is so important.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I'm really curious to see if we actually have productive conversations about this, or if it's sort of framed in a way that will just immediately turn people off and they'll just kind of throw their hands up and say, no, we don't want to change. I hope there's some real conversations about it. So we shall see.
I think I'm no pro negotiator, but I think start with 12 p.m. as a start time and then negotiate down. What do you think of that?
That seems reasonable.
Okay. Can I be a negotiator for OCPS?
No.
Okay. I tried. Last one. All right. Going back to being a little more serious. I mean, I am very serious about fluoride and people will pay for that. But no, but my last bill, my number one bill, and I know it would be high on your list if I didn't take it from you, is the new restrictions on the Citizens Initiative. So under this new measure that has already been signed by DeSantis, who was so scared by how much support Amendment 3 and Amendment 4 got this time around, how Florida has passed minimum wage laws, felon reenfranchisement. They are scared of this type of democracy. So what they have passed in this bill is under these new restrictions, voters can be charged with a felony if they collect more than 25 signed ballot petitions other than their own or those of their own family members and don't register with the state as a petition circulator. So under this law, more people will be banned from collecting petitions, including Floridians with felony convictions who haven't had their voting rights restored. Floridians will have to provide their driver's license number, voter ID number, or last four digits of their social in order to fill out a petition, and the form will be made public. And last thing, campaigners will face shorter deadlines to return petitions to local offices, stiffer fines if they don't return them correctly. And that's an issue that advocates say can occur because just voter error filling out the forms. I mean, I've filled out a number of petitions. Oftentimes you're standing in line, you're trying to pull out your ID or, something. You're trying to get stuff right. Genuine mistakes happen. So it is under this guise of they are cracking down on fraud, which of course, this is just like the voter fraud lie. There's not fraud in this stuff. I mean, there's like those edge cases, but this is, by and large, this is democracy that we have in our Constitution, enshrined in our ability to affect change and change Florida's Constitution. And it should be hard, and it is hard, but they're making it impossible for completely cynical and malevolent reasons. And it's really gross.
You know what I think?
What?
I think politicians are afraid of the people.
I think you're right. Are you afraid of the people?
I love the people.
But you're
the people have the power. I mean, I think, and I honestly think that it should be an elected, and I hate to use the word politician, but I think it should be an elected person's job to encourage people and communicate with them and explain to them how they can be more involved in the process. Like, that's what we want. Like, right. We want people to be involved in the process. We
Absolutely.
Don't want to shut them down and shut them out. And that's exactly what this bill does.
Well, I think when you're a Republican governor and a Republican majority legislature, and you don't like what the people think and you don't like what they want because it goes against how you deem the state be run. You're not going to like direct democracy in this way, and you're going to make it nearly impossible for voters to enact their will.
We like the people here.
We like the people. Okay, what's your last one?
So it's the charter school bill. It was 1105. It just kind of became part of a kind of education train bill. And I'm not going to go into the weeds. I could, but I think most people would not be interested in that. But
I'll sit here all night. Let's talk about it.
No, we were just saying we're never doing a podcast. Doing some really pro taxpayer funded voucher bills going through and really expansion of that program. And while all of that was happening, what I was thinking in the back of my mind was, where are the charter schools and what are they doing and why are we not hearing from them? And I thought their time is coming. And I think we saw it this year. I think there's a bill that ended up being passed that essentially makes it much easier to convert a public school into a charter school.
Boo.
Exactly. Again, I'm not going to go into the weeds on that, but I also would note that even at the federal level, our federal government is making huge cuts to education funding, to public education funding, but they actually are increasing funding for charter schools. So I think it's just part of a bigger picture, something to definitely keep our eye on. And I would say that I am 0% surprised.
All right. So that is it. That does it for our list. Last on the docket tonight is kind of our national discussion, and by Governor Pritzker of Illinois, who essentially attacked do-nothing Democrats, people who weren't standing up. And there was From Senator John Hickenlooper said of Pritzker, who was attacking Do Nothing Democrats, oh, he's getting ready for a presidential run in 2028 as some way to write him off. So my large point about that is, and I saw this take on Blue Sky and I really liked it, which is like, essentially, if you don't have ambitions and you're in Democratic politics, you should find something else to do. And which is all to say, I think it's good to be ambitious. I think if you want to be ambitious and you're going to do that by standing up to Trump, good for you. I want ambitious candidates for president, for Senate, for whatever. I think ambition is a great thing when it is a point in the right direction. I think we have to judge people on their judgment and how they are being ambitious and what they are doing and fighting back. So I just thought that comment from Hickenlooper was so stupid, and I just want to continue to praise people who are standing up. But okay, so this is my question for you. How do you think about this question of like with doing the right things and getting attention, that sort of stuff, if that question makes sense?
Maybe I don't see it in exactly the same way. I think what's important is that you know, that an elected person or even an advocate is someone who has values and has a passion for things that they care about, and that they speak about them because they're passionate and because they care about them. And that's like authentic to them, and that's being who they are. And to me, I mean, if that's considered ambitious, well, then okay, then that's ambitious, I guess. But to me, it's really more about staying true to yourself and staying true to what's important to you and the values that are important to you, and not, I guess, cowering when those are challenged, and not backing down when they're challenged. It's not about finding the limelight just for the sake of kind of being in the spotlight, but I think it's standing up for what you believe in anytime. Whether you're going to run for office, whether you're an advocate, whether you're a parent, really, it's just whether you're just a stakeholder, community member, teacher, it's just standing up for what you believe in. I just think that's important.
I think that's very well said. And school board meetings and made a lot of comments and became like this vociferous advocate. You could be like, oh, well, they just want to run for school board. And it's like, well, if they're doing a great job being a great advocate and they're putting in the work, good for them. Be ambitious, run for something. Not for your seat. No one.
District 6.
It's not District 6 where everything clicks. But anyway, I think we're on the same page. Okay. And then finally, do you want to bring us home?
Yeah, we want to talk about Texas School Board. They recently had some elections. I think we had at least 4 different school boards in the state of Texas where the kind of culture warriors, I'll say, lost. And we have sort of common sense, rational thinking, pro-public education school board members on the school boards in Texas. I think I like them.
What do you think that says about this moment?
I think it says a couple of things. Number one, I think it says people are looking for elected leaders who have common sense, people who are going to focus on the things that matter. I think that's number one. And I think number two, a lot of these issues surrounding education, they're issues that really a lot of people care about, and they don't really break down into Democrat, Republican, or blue and red. The majority of Americans send their children to public schools. And so protecting public schools and advocating for public schools, making sure they have funding and sort of fighting for our public schools is important to people of all different parties and no parties at all.
Well, I agree with all that. Yes, and we have a wannabe authoritarian in the White House, and I think people want to make their voice heard in this moment. So I think that is very helpful. But I think it's an all of the above. I mean, that's just my take. What do I know? I'm just a guy on the other end of the table. Should we tell people that the proposed name of this podcast was the Stephanie Vanno Show with Guy?
Which was your idea, not mine, for the record.
But it's a great idea. If you've made it all the way to the end of this podcast and you like that name, let us know. It's not off the table.
Let us know. I think we should let the people go.
Let the people go. Like you said, like Moses said, it's time to let the people go. This has been TBD, and it will be something else at some point in the future. Thank you so much for listening today. I want to thank, as always, my wonderful, beautiful co-host, member Stephanie Vannos.
Thank you for a wonderful conversation, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.